Detroit, Detroit, Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And in studio, I have somebody that I met years ago. I guarantee she probably does not remember, but you run across a lot of people working in community that definitely have ideas about how politics and community can come together. And I mean, when I say the ground level, I mean the ground level. She was volunteering with my good homie that's now Chief of Staff for Mary Sheffield. Brian White was running for state representative and was like learning like hands-on, like, okay, these doors, this is how we do, volunteer, get their information. And I was like, wow, this is like one of the most engaged volunteers I've ever seen, Brian. He was like, yeah, she cool. That's Stephanie. So that Stephanie went on to become state representative, and now is going on to become state senator, and just as involved in so many movements of water on behalf of water activists, environmental activists, definitely on behalf of like really a lot that just goes on with taxation and representing Detroiters and many other things, as you would only imagine as a person from the ground up, grassroots would be in Detroit. Stephanie Chang, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much.
Definitely. We were at the ECN and I was like, yo, I would love to like have you on. And then Arlisa was like, yep, make it happen. So shout out to Arlisa.
I'm glad it's happening.
Definitely.
It was an amazing event, by the way.
Yeah, it was cool seeing Orlando. I saw Orlando was going to be awarded. And I was like, yeah, I definitely got to be there. Yeah, Orlando, Mr. Bailey does all types of things.
He really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
And is everywhere.
Very, very much so. And advocating, like figuring out other ways of like getting in. Definitely the voice of the East Side, but more so the voice of the people into these different spaces he travels. But I would say similar to you and your story of just working so much with activists and a lot of the people that look at advocacy. I would say it's like almost like a team that has grown that went from like front lines, still marching with the folks, but now into some different political offices and kind of throughout between yourself, Rashida, Denzel was over this way the other day, Gabriella, like it's growing. It's growing.
Yes, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more and more people who come from organizing who are realizing we can use those same skills in office, in public service. And so, I mean, at this point, I've been doing this for almost 11 years now, being in office. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is like very similar to the types of issues that I was working on before I ever thought about running for office. So, but it's really, really encouraging because I feel like with Denzel and Gabby and with Mayor-elect Sheffield, I feel like we've got just like all these really incredible people who like know really, like you said, from the ground up, like what the things are that are happening and like really appreciate the work that we have to do hand in hand with folks on the ground to actually create the solutions that we need.
All right. So with that, Detroit is Different. Always start with the origin story and your fam to the city. What was the roots? How did you all get, like how many generations deep are your people to the city of Detroit?
Yeah. So I'm a proud daughter of immigrants. Yeah. And so my parents actually are immigrants from Taiwan, and they actually came to the Midwest in the 1970s looking for a better opportunity. They met at the University of Notre Dame.
Ain't that something?
Right. And they met as international students. They fell in love, and then got married. And then my dad found a job in the auto industry, and so they moved to Michigan.
Okay.
And so they lived in Wixom actually for a couple of years. Had my sister, my older sister, and then moved to Canton, and then had me. So I was actually raised in Canton, and then went to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and then basically moved to Detroit right after graduating in 2005. So have been in Detroit for about 20 years now, and raising my family here, and it has been a journey.
I can imagine. And some of that, I definitely want to ask some questions internationally. It's always something more that we can learn, definitely from that lens of coming here. And then it's like they've navigated in colder spaces because South Bend, Indiana ain't necessarily the tropics either. So what was like just their adjustment of coming? What was that like? How did they take on just Michigan? What was their
Yeah.
perspective when they talk about
Yeah, for sure.
Michigan in the 70s, 80s?
Yeah. Well, so I something I remember asking them like, well, how did you guys choose Notre Dame? Right? Like it's like, are people in Taiwan like
Yeah.
thinking about Notre Dame? Like, how did this come about?
Mhm.
It's just they had good programs. So they both decided to go there. One of the things that I think was like really helpful, I know definitely for my mom when she came over, was that there was like a host family. I don't know if that happens for everyone these days coming as international students. I feel like it doesn't, but there was basically like a couple that was tasked with like just helping her acclimate to living in the United States.
Mhm.
And my dad had a host family as well, but my mom still is like very much in touch with her
Okay.
host family, and like so we call them actually grandma and grandpa because
I got
like
you.
they're because they like were really
Really
so
close.
influential.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like if you think about coming to a country, you're the only one from your family that came here and you don't know anyone else, right? And so being able to like have someone actually guiding you on like I don't know, just like getting around and like of course the language and like so some of the different customs and things like that I know was really helpful for her. Um and so I think like how important that type of stuff is for folks
Mhm.
who are coming here. Um, and that we should like keep doing that, keep supporting people who are just trying to create a better life for themselves.
Mhm.
So and then when they came to Michigan, um, again, like did not know anyone, right? And
Mhm.
I think, you know, about the fact that my parents raised me and my sister with like no grandparent help or anything like that.
Yeah.
And now, right, like I've got my 6-year-old and 10-year-old, and I literally would not have been able to do this without my
Support.
mom, my dad,
Mhm.
my mother-in-law, and they didn't have that.
Mm.
And so I feel very lucky to have them. And I think often about the fact that it was like a pretty big transition, right, to come from a country that
Mhm.
um, you've lived in your entire life and then move to the United States, and it really was because they wanted a better opportunity, but, like, they just started with, like, 0 network, right?
Yeah.
So, pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's I can only imagine just navigating what it is, what are the natural customs, what are the spaces and places that you can kind of connect with.
Yeah.
Especially like when I think of here, like Michigan and the Midwest itself, this is I guess almost most places in America is like, very, it can be very segregated in communities. And
Yep.
like, if you just kind of don't know how to navigate, it's like you'll end up in thinking like, okay, where is another person from Taiwan where I could just,
Yeah,
say what's up
for sure.
in my own language.
Yeah. So a couple things that I think were probably really helpful, and, like, I think about the fact that, so my parents, right, they were trying to find out like
Yeah.
where are the other Taiwanese people?
Yep.
And so I don't know how long ago this started, but there is in Michigan there are a few different Chinese language schools which are like Saturday schools.
Hmm.
So like I grew up going to school like Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday for a couple hours I went to go learn Chinese.
Okay.
And I think the reason why that was so important was it was honestly like, mostly for the kids, but also for the parents,
Mm.
right? Because of the parents then had community with one another,
Yeah.
and, I think that was really important, and, like, my parents are still, like, friends with the folks that
Hmm.
they went to had us go to Chinese school, and they
So
were
you
hanging
kind of
out.
you kind of stay up with people that like you've known since you were 3, probably through
Absolutely.
your parents, kind of,
Yes.
sort of.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
it's really, I think, pretty meaningful, and so that Chinese school still exists to this day.
Okay.
And like it's still there as an opportunity, right, for other people who have arrived here
Yep.
and like they want their kids to learn the language as well. And then also like my kids now are going to Chinese school. So it's a little bit different, right? Because I'm not speaking Chinese at home and I'm not actually fluent, but I want them to like be in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're growing up as these, you know, Black and Asian kids like learning Chinese and then like going to school in Detroit and like they have like a very diverse friend group. I just I'm really I seeing my kids. I feel very hopeful, but I also like am also always thinking about the fact that like my parents came here and they did this. They created this life for me and my sister and I'm pretty grateful.
Okay. All right. So now I guess let's just get more so into the story of like you had an older sister too. So you
Yeah.
kind of could look and see like some of that navigation. Okay, my sister doing this, sort of, kind of, possibly,
Yeah.
you know. And then before you go into it, but what was for you? What was like high school? What were your classes that you took? You know, like okay, I'm liking this. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So, when I was in high school, you know, so I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Canton.
Mhm.
Canton is way more diverse now than it was when I was
Yes.
growing up. So,
Okay.
like, I remember as a little kid, like being the only Asian American kid in my classes and and like the occasional like teasing and bullying and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it wasn't really until I was in high school where, I like started to feel a stronger sense of like my identity. And I was a part of this Asian American student club that had formed in my school.
Hmm.
And then we were doing like these international dinners where it was like the Asian kids and the Black kids and like I don't know, I think that like there was a bunch of Arab and Middle Eastern kids that were there as well. And so like we would put on this like cultural show every year and like that was super fun. And I think like through those experiences I started to feel a greater sense of pride about like being an Asian American woman.
Mhm.
I also read this book called Asian American Dreams by Helen Zia,
Hmm.
and reading about this history, it like really started to make a bunch of things make more sense to me. Learning about Vincent Chin, who was killed
Yeah.
in Highland Park, you know, right in the middle of the city, like Highland Park in the city of Detroit.
Yeah, like actually, I mean, where we sit now, if people have been to Detroit, is different. It's like, well, I mean, it's a freeway, but if you cross that bridge, it's like really, like literally, like walking distance from
Yeah.
where that happened.
Yeah.
You just remember that moment, and you actually did I know I'm jumping further
Really
down
good.
the line, but
Yeah.
a memorial on the family's behalf, but also on behalf of just a lot of Asian Americans, because that was like, I guess before like all the legislation, what we look at as a hate crime, just from a lot of the bigoted looks of how people looked at like quote unquote um, other people taking their quote unquote jobs,
Yeah.
which is a very corrosive way of looking at a lot of things, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But
Yeah.
that was one of the most horrific incidents connected to that.
And it was a wake-up call. And I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. Not so like certainly in the Asian American community, but also like there was a really awesome I mean, I was like not even born yet when he was murdered, but and now having like met and worked with a lot of the folks who were involved in the organizing, it was a multiracial coalition of folks who were saying what happened was not right, not just his brutal murder, but also the fact that his killers never served a full, sentence in prison. And so it like I think was a big wake-up call for folks to say we need to make changes in our justice system, and also we've got a lot of work to do to combat racism in our community. And so I think like that is why I think it's so important that people actually learn about what happened to Vincent Chin and like broadly how important it is that kids are learning the history of communities of color, period. Because so, I think back to like when COVID was happening and all of this anti-Asian hate was happening. A lot of us were thinking, we've been here before. Like our country has been through this before. All of the hate and sort of like lumping people together and not being able to like differentiate. And then like thinking of people as like causing the virus, which of course was like completely unfounded. It was like very similar vibes to what was happening in the 80s with all of the anti-Asian sentiment that was happening there, because Detroit's auto industry was not doing very well at that time, and the Japanese auto industry was doing really well. And so there was just like an anti-Japanese, and that spread to just like anyone who might look Japanese or might look Asian. And so, but I think one of the things that is like really important for us to continue to remember about that whole situation was that it was a terrible thing that happened, but then it spurred like so much activism after. And it was multiracial, which we have to continue to uplift because people don't always remember that. It's something that a lot of people think back and like they remember. Like I just hear stories, right, from people who were involved in it or people who remember hearing about what happened. And then it like changed the way they thought about stuff. So
yeah, very much so. And like one of these moments where people say, "Kari, you talk more than the guest sometimes," but I like to place things into a framework, as people say, like, you know so much about these different things, and I learn a lot from these conversations, from some of the things I read, and then also from like placing myself in spaces and places. And one of the key things a lot in the American story is in the American story, especially how it's written in history, it's like it picks points in times to like, this is where we're going to start and then we're going to move forward. Because even the whole concept of, what happened with Japanese automakers. I mean, even to this day, like, I have a Honda and people are like, yeah, that's going to last forever. Like, this was, it's like, okay, World War I, which directly connects to World War II, and then what happens afterwards with this like United Nations, especially when it comes to to my lens of how I see this, is a lot of both those wars were the colonization of Africa and Asia. That was a lot. And I mean, it even oozes over into what happens in the Vietnam War, where the French province and people speak about it. So, like, sometimes it's like we like pick a point to start something.
Yeah.
And then when you pick that point to start something, and then different people travel to different spaces. A lot of the engineering that starts to, like at one point in time, people say, like China, like what do they say? Like the gross domestic product in China doubles itself, 10 times every year at one point in time. But this is just due to a lot of people that really, a lot of those times kind of deal with a lot of America stuff. Like, it's American industry and business that are moving internationally, that are changing how we look at things and having the opportunities. So it's easier to make it seem like they took my job, as we're seeing a lot of people looking at, like, I guess now a lot of talk about the H-1B visas, where the reality is a lot of the conditions in these other nations where people are seeking asylum or to come to America for opportunity is because of a lot of resources that American business has not been fair dealing with those nations themselves. So it's like a direct relationship between these Western nations and the people coming here. It's not like they just are, just think that this would be a great place to come to. The relationship exists because it's already there and already being exploited. It's
all connected. And like, I think I love how you connected many different pieces of history and like what was going on. Because you're right. The way that we learn history is like this thing and then this thing and this thing happened.
Yeah.
But like, actually, well, there was a lot of other things that happened that created the context in which certain things happen.
Very much so. Yeah. Like, I mean, even in Chinese history, they're like, yeah, the Chinese didn't let anybody in. And it's like, well, I mean, have you read about like the opium crisis that, that was brought in? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a reason, it's a lot of context to some of the things that exist. And oftentimes, especially if it's from an American lens, if you're looked at as, I guess, bad or something, it's probably something that America did that was like more exploitive to that nation. And when I say America, I'm not saying like American citizens, because this is the other disconnect, usually on behalf of like corporations or people with influence, people with resources. I guess a lot of times now people use the term oligarch now. I guess we could say that. I don't know what term you want to use, but people that are taking advantages of the resources to, pull other things, as I've often brought up, like the access that we have to goods and services in America. It's some of these realities just shouldn't exist just due to how far they travel to get here.
You're probably right. And I think that I'm trying to remember who I was having a conversation with recently about how we like convenience. And because of that, our economy has shifted in a way where some things that probably shouldn't be readily accessible are, but like whose lives are negatively impacted because of the thing that we wanted to be right at our doorstep that next day.
As an American, we can get a coconut 365 days a year, probably for all I can't tell you the last time I bought one, but I don't know, maybe like $7. And that's like, that just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it possibly sometimes needs to probably cost us like $75 for that coconut.
Sure.
You know.
My husband bought mangoes the other day. Like, where are the mangoes? I don't even know. I should check the sticker where the mangoes came from. I wonder how far they traveled. We love a good mango, though. But
I'm just saying, like, these are like, and then when you start seeing more of the relationships, a lot of the other things take place. And I often don't want, like, a person watching this to feel like, but just be more mindful of these relationships between internationally that happen are it's a lot more fluidity behind the scenes than just what's presented at us often.
For
you know
sure.
what I'm saying?
And within that international context, I think also like one of the things that I would love to learn more about and that I think there should be more conversations or public events about is like the intersection between all of our communities of color and the history that was all happening at the same time, right? And so I think about, for example, like when Black Bottom was raised basically to build a freeway, the same thing was also happening to Detroit's first Chinatown, right? And so there is actually like this shared history between Black and Asian communities in Detroit that most people don't know, but we should talk about it, right? We should learn about it. Our kids should learn about it. But then again, of course, like that was happening, and then like what else was happening in our country and in our world, and like why were these freeways even being built? All of that stuff is so related, right? All of those pieces.
Yeah, I didn't know as much till about a lot of like the Chinatown information in Detroit until a lot of things like this summer. And it was shout out to Sam Robinson. It was Sam that was like, yeah, man, I'm over there. So I'm love Sam. Love Sam's approach to journalism and all types of stuff, but just being involved and connecting in that community, because back to like where you write history, you can start it here or you can start it there. You know what I'm saying? And that's just something that I never tied together living in Detroit for so long.
Because like who's preserving the history, who's talking about the history, and for the the folks who are educating our young people, how much information do they even have about, right? And so like there's not a history book that tells you about Detroit's Chinatown, right? Someone should write one. But and like that shared history too, like how can we like make sure that people are learning about this? Got a long way to go.
All right. So in this same space, like as I was saying, I guess just like in this journey. So from high school, you say you went to U of M.
Yep.
Okay, what was it that made you go blue and choose blue? I know it's a lot of people clapping right now. It's like, how could you pick another school? But
yeah, so, well, part of it was because my sister was there already.
Okay, so following Big Sister.
Yes,
okay.
Followed in Big Sister's footsteps. And honestly, like in-state tuition, great programs, good school. And at the time, I think, you know what? Actually, no. When I started undergrad, I was like, on my plan to become a lawyer.
Okay.
which obviously did not happen. I didn't do that.
But the thought process was attorney.
That was what I was thinking.
What type of law were you thinking? Was it just attorney, and then I'll figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, like I actually, I don't know at what point in high school, maybe senior year in high school, I like decided, okay, I'm going to become a civil rights lawyer.
Okay.
So I did not end up doing that, but I did go to Michigan. And okay, so one of the things that happened when I was a freshman at the University of Michigan was that the Supreme Court cases around affirmative action were going on.
Proposal 2.
Yes. So, well, lead up to proposal 2. So, so I was like a freshman. And I was like, okay, this is like this campus that's full of all this activism. I'm going to get involved. Was part of like the bus ride to DC where we were outside when the Supreme Court hearing was going on.
Wow.
And trying to like make sure student voices were heard around supporting affirmative action. As like folks who would be directly impacted by the decision of this Supreme Court. And so then I like got really involved in that. And then I when I was on campus as an undergrad, I did like more and more like basically organizing and student activism around issues affecting students of color. And so that really was actually like my training ground. Because like when I started in college, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to become an organizer. I don't think I really even knew what that was. But that's basically what I was doing when I was on campus. And then actually, when I graduated from college, that was 2005. It was a year before Proposal 2. So that's when we knew that Wardell Connerly was going to be coming to Michigan and trying to push this ballot initiative. And so that is when I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go to law school. I'm going to actually like try to be an organizer and like try to help with this effort to try to keep affirmative action programs in Michigan.
Okay, so as you're doing that, like I think most friends, parents, and other influencers, as you're telling that to your parent, what is their take? What's your sister's take? What are they thinking of the activism?
Well, my sister, I think, has always been pretty supportive. My parents, I think, were like, what is happening right now? So the other thing that happened was that, so like I moved to Detroit in 2005 to go live at the Boggs Center with Grace Lee Boggs, and my parents were like, "What is happening? Why are you moving to Detroit in 2005?" Things looked a lot different in Detroit in 2005 compared to now, and I think they were a little concerned, and like not totally sure why I was making these decisions. And when I graduated, I actually did have like an opportunity lined up to go do some union organizing that would have taken me out of state. And so I decided actually to not do that. And so I like started working, but like not for pay in the beginning with the campaign around educating folks around affirmative action. And then was like working part-time at an after-school daycare so that I could like have some money coming in. And so that's like not a normal decision for a recent college graduate.
Yes. Yes.
But I did it because I was like, I'm passionate about this issue.
Okay.
And
you kind of went way past over a big moment. And you spoke to I'm glad I had the honor of Grace and her parent presence a couple of times, no pun intended, but Grace Lee Boggs, one of the let's see, what's the best way to even try to explain Grace? Grace Lee Boggs, one of first off, one of the most dynamic thinkers when it comes to building bonds between human connection that are needed to humanize a lot of people in this space where capitalism usually, creates a lot of transactional relationships that we function through. And even into her 90s, like, like Lord knows, when I met her, it's no reason that I should have been talking more than her. And she was like really paying attention to like, God knows what analogies I'm making with hip hop and stuff, but very present, Jimmy Boggs and what comes from the Boggs Center and their stories, and they've definitely connected through Detroit is Different. So shout out to Shay, Rich, Mama Myrtle, Kim, Steven, so many that connect that story, but like their work at one point in time, really like front line of a lot of socialists, more Marxist thinking internationally. But as they grew older, they became so much more community focused.
Yep.
That carries out in like what you see of the center now, the school. It even goes into Riverwise magazine and so much more. But a champion figure in a lot of the theories of so many other organizers and relationships. So I just wanted to give that point, and I definitely got to connect with you because it's the other Asian American connections too.
Yeah.
But what was it like when you first meet Grace? How does that happen? When do you make the connection?
So I actually met Grace when she came to speak at probably a couple different classes at the University of Michigan. So I know that I definitely met her through Scott Kurashige and Emily Lawson, who were two professors at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
So I met her because she came to speak, and then I was involved in the Detroit Asian Youth Project at the time, and so in 2000, I guess it was 2005, when we were doing the summer program working with these amazing young people. She was there because it was a project of the Boggs Center. She was there at the closing ceremony. And I never really asked her, like, why did you ask? But anyway, she asked me to go live at the Boggs Center. And so, like, I said yes. I actually never really asked her, like, why did you ask me to live at the Boggs Center? Like, how did, yeah.
How did I make the selection?
Right. Like, how did that come about? I probably should have asked her. But anyways, so of course I said yes. I'm gonna like live at the Boggs Center, and so I lived there for 2 years.
Okay.
So October 2005 to October 2007.
Wow.
And so those were like my first 2 years living in Detroit, and I tell people this, and it's absolutely 100% true, because I think if I had moved to Detroit and lived anywhere else and like in any other way, I probably would be a different person, right? Because I lived at the Boggs Center for 2 years, and so I was like I would answer the phone, I would answer the emails, I would like help her with just random things, and like help her with setting up the different meetings. People were asking to like come visit from all over the place.
Yes.
Like literally all over the place. And then like was part of this network where we were like planning these events and these dialogues, because Grace really loved to have a good conversation about,
very much so.
Yes. About, what was going on in the community. How do we like move to thinking about things differently, and reimagining our world. And so I then, because I was there and a part of just like these meetings and like conversations she was having, like picked up just a lot of a sense of like this belief that change happens block by block, and like what happens on the ground, especially in Detroit, where people are like not waiting for someone else to come up with a solution, they're creating it themselves. Like that is something that I think I got like a really clear sense from like being at the Boggs Center, and like all these different folks would come in and talk about what they were doing. And I think if I had like moved to Detroit in any other way, I wouldn't have had that exposure. And so I probably wouldn't like have learned the like history of Detroit through her lens. And so I would probably have like a different kind of an outlook, and might have not done some of the other things that I have done since. So I am really grateful to have had that opportunity. She passed away in 2015. So this year is actually the 10th anniversary of her passing. And so there was a really great commemoration event actually at ECN, at the Eastside Community Network in October, where folks from all over the place actually came and shared their memories of her. And it was a really, really nice event.
Okay. All right. Now I got to ask the philosophical question of this too. At that, do you think, obviously, being there and seeing so many organizers and advocates and activists and people with like it's a lot of people you're going to get crossing paths about those movements. Do you think so much of it is because of your age at the time, or do you think how much more of it is the age for you to take that in?
Yeah.
Or is it just more so just that the presence of being around that? Because I mean, even it's like, you spend enough time at the Boggs Center, you'll think that you're not doing enough ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it was because I was definitely young, right? And I was like this sponge, just like soaking up knowledge. And so that was definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like another big part of it was because it was Grace, right? And like her network, like her herself, but then also all the people around her. That was like another big factor. And I try to just generally be in learning mode. I hope that will continue for my life, right? Like even though I'm not so young anymore, like I think it's always important that we're continuing to learn. And so, and I think so I think being a sponge, being young, also just like that network of people that was there. And I also think that I like already was interested in a certain set of like social justice issues. But parts of the pieces that I was missing were sort of the like getting a sense of like what was happening block by block, and what the different, and also the history, right, of all the different things that Grace and Jimmy had been involved in for so many years around like gun violence and gardening and young people with Detroit Summer, and all like the list goes on. And the fact that she also Grace herself, I think, was always in learning mode. And that was really amazing to watch, actually, right? Because she had been involved in so many different movements over the years. And I think that her thinking about different things had evolved over time as well. And so she was an amazing example of being a lifelong learner. She was also always reading and always asking people questions.
Yeah.
Which is another great thing for us to try to remember, is like, we're never going to know everything, but we should always be curious and always try to understand why other people are thinking a certain way, and also like trying to connect the dots back to like, what was the thing that happened. And Grace also had a really amazing memory for like being in her 90s when I was living there. She could like remember conferences that she spoke at and conversations she had, and like what was it was pretty remarkable.
Very, very much so. And also, like, I have to ask, because like one of the biggest moments in time, because I also look at it like, the sport to me. It's like, like head coaches in football, it's like they're part of the coaching tree. So like I look at like Grace has one hell of a coaching tree, but like in different levels. So it's definitely some OGs like in their like, 60s and 70s. And then it's some people, you know what I'm saying? Like like around your age that are still also connected, and it goes like up through, you know what I'm saying? So I look at like UL, PG, you know what I'm saying? And now it's like, okay, I can put you in this mix, especially staying there, of so many others that have touched, my homie Sterling, like all of these just different people that have had like that pass through connection alone, and it's impacting a lot of their thoughts. Tawana,
Yep.
I could sit here for.
It's a web.
Yeah.
It's like, and you like the further you go, I mean, who knows how far it actually goes.
Yeah. And then it's like you look up and it's like, oh man, for real? They are New York Times bestseller? Like shit, they was chilling in the Boggs Center like a while ago. But it reminds me of the U.S. Social Forum. In that moment, because I felt that was definitely one of those times where it felt different. Like that was, and I think one of the most powerful expressions that I think really a lot of that organizing that began, not exclusively the Boggs Center, because I know it's like, Bill Wiley Kellerman and many others, but still a lot, I think, was centered in that space. And that definitely gave such a platform for a lot of those revolutionary thoughts.
You're bringing us back. I had not thought about the U.S. Social Forum in a while. But yes, that was 2010. Detroit was the host. And there was a lot of work that went into that. I was like a little bit involved. I was definitely not one of the core people, but I was like helping here and there with certain things. And wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I remember like the panels, and it's like Grace was in the mix of all of that and not looking as tired as the people, not like Adrienne Marie Brown. Like
Yeah.
Adrienne's like I say, it's like I don't know. It's just like a moment in time where it's like a snapshot,
Yep.
and
And people from everywhere were there, and
Yeah.
that was amazing. I actually like wish I could go back and like l- soak up even more from that moment because people were really there from all over the place and
Mhm.
bringing all of their organizing and activism to Detroit where we could learn from one another. And um, wow, I had not thought about the U.S. Social Forum in a while.
All right, so that definitely puts us in that mix. So '07,
Yep.
the Boggs Center, and then also this is the other thing I think about some of the it's a lot of philosophical thought into the Boggs Center too about like I guess whether people want to deconstruct the system that it is or whether you want to be a part of it and look to reform it, which I don't think is an absolute yes or no to either thought process. But being there, I'm sure you're present in many of these discussions. How do you start leaning a little bit more into the thought process of like, okay, it's possibilities to work within the political structure to actually empower the people?
Yeah. So I remember. So okay. So when I was at the Boggs Center, there was a couple years where I was working on the campaign around affirmative action,
Hmm.
and then there was like a year or so where, well, yeah, probably okay. So about a year when I was working on that, and then a year when I was working on this campaign to reform our indigent defense system, make sure people get adequate legal representation.
Hmm.
Um, and so like I remember while I was doing that, it was like such different work from like the stuff at the Bog Center, right?
Mm.
Because it was like statewide. We are like trying to build this coalition of all these different groups, and we're like talking to lawyers and judges and like faith leaders and just trying to get people to support this issue. And it was like very different from the type of work at the Bog Center, which is like supporting the philosophy, the thinking, and
Hmm.
the nurturing and the community leadership happening on the ground. And I remember sometimes feeling like, am I in the right place right now? But I was in the right place because I think it actually is all connected, right?
Mm.
And so I think that, and I'm really glad that I was doing both of those things at the same time because I think that has helped to shape me, right? And like recognizing that all types of organizing is actually really important.
Hmm.
And like the organizing and just meeting basic needs, right? At the very like local individualized level is super important and probably some of the most important work that happens. And then, yes, we also need to work to change laws.
Hmm.
And yes, it's actually good to like build a coalition and work with folks from all different sides of the spectrum to like organize around an issue to get the law changed. And so, but everything like all of these things need to happen, right? Because but we need to try to create change at whatever part of the system, whatever part of the system we're
Hmm.
in.
Yeah.
And um, and I see that today too, right? Like obviously I'm like working on policy
Hmm.
at the state level, but it's all connected to the things that are happening.
On the ground level.
Yeah.
And I understand it. I don't think it's a either or. I think oftentimes just due to this is, I am a marketing guy, but but the conditioning oftentimes in like American thought is very, is very like black or white. It's like either yes or no. Whereas it's a lot of gray area in a lot of this
Yeah,
stuff,
for sure.
especially due to like when it comes to connecting with people. So like as you get more involved in that political campaign, when do you make the decision to run for state rep?
Yeah, so that was quite a bit later. So I was working on the campaign around Indigenous defense reform, making sure people get adequate legal representation. I also co-founded an Asian American civic engagement group, and then I decided to go to grad school. So I got my public policy and social work dual degree.
Okay.
And it was while I was in grad school where I had zero plans to run for office.
Okay.
Originally when I was going to grad school, it's I am going to go to grad school and then I'm gonna continue in this journey of
grassroots work.
yes. And
Mhm.
yes. That was that was the plan.
Yep.
Plans change. So 2013, well, 2012. So 2012, I get involved in supporting Rashida's last campaign for the state house for reelection.
Yes.
Right. I had helped out on every single one of her campaigns. That was her last one. That's when actually she was going to become my own state representative.
Mhm.
I lived in Lafayette Park at the time, and I was really wanted to help her win. So I got really involved, and so we became a little bit closer through that year. And okay, so this popped up as actually a Facebook memory
Mhm.
yesterday.
Wow.
She sent me. She's very good at the personalized touches. She sent me a handwritten thank you card after the election.
Yeah.
Just thanking me for my help and support. And on the top, she said, "Future Rep Stephanie Chang," and so I guess she was already thinking about that at that time.
Mhm.
I was not.
Yes.
And I was not at all I was going to run for office. I was this is not at all within my
Mhm.
thought process.
Mhm.
She's very convincing.
Okay.
So she and actually, so it took me a few. She kept saying that I should run for office, and I was this. I didn't. First of all, I did not think she was serious.
Mhm.
But she was. And so then it took a couple tries, and then she was okay, let's have a conversation. So then she and my good friend Dessa sat me down and we had lunch, and then I was I don't know, I'm not ready. I don't know enough about all these issues, and
Mhm.
I'm not the right person. I'm Asian American in this district that's predominantly black, and
Mhm.
this doesn't make any sense. So that launched this 6-month process of self-reflection
Mhm.
and talking to a lot of different people about whether or not I should or shouldn't run.
Okay.
Some of it was questions about could I win?
Mhm.
But a lot of the questions were should I? Am I the right person for this? And so this whole the fact that it took me 6 months to decide is actually quite common, I think, for women and especially women of color when being encouraged to run for office, because we have ingrained in our brains that we're not yet ready, or we're not yet the right person, or somehow we're lacking certain skills, when in fact we are ready and we do have these skills and we do have this knowledge. Anyway, so it took me a while, but eventually I did decide to run, and I made that decision in the summer 2013 to run for state rep because Rashida was terming out of the state house. Really, I made the decision because I realized that it was,
The momentum of what was built already.
it was already there. And also, I could use a lot of the same skills that I had as an organizer, but in a different setting in office, and that I could make it an impact in a different way.
Okay.
Rashida's very persuasive. So one of the things that she told me was that I could still be an organizer. I would just be organizing my colleagues. She's really good at thinking about what is the thing that's going to persuade someone.
Okay.
So, yeah. So so that made a lot of sense to me. And then the other thing that someone said to me that really helped me make that decision was I have no idea if my friend remembers this, but she told me to think about, if I wasn't going to run for the state house and do that work for six years, and the house was originally the thought, what else would I be doing over the next 6 years, and would I be able to make as big of an impact? And so that also made me realize, well, I should just do it.
Yeah.
So,
as they say, well, it's more of a spades game saying, if you're gonna be a bear, be a grizzly.
there we go.
There you go. So, so in the run, and you've worked definitely from the outside, now you're working in, and a lot of those questions I definitely could see. This is kind of what I often speak of. It doesn't necessarily mean that we agree or anything, but that same conditioning, it's like this conditioning and messaging that exists and permeates. We will always question, and I definitely think more goes into a lot of women questioning leadership itself. I mean, we definitely saw that play out in last year's presidential election all way through,
Which was a whole thing that we could talk about for a whole other hour.
Yeah, you got that right. So in this now running, because Austin, when you run for office, but when you make any like bigger life decisions, like there are other stakeholders in your life that and you want to, I don't want to say like get their quote unquote approval as much as like you definitely want you want the blessing of those around you and everything. What was the response of many of the people around you? I'm guessing from looking at so much of what you did already, maybe people was like, yeah, I saw that.
Well, it's funny because my mom has said that, so my parents have always been supportive of my campaigns, and she has said like that actually it made a lot of sense because there are things that like I did in high school that like maybe are like led to this somehow, some way. And she's also my mom and knows me better than anyone. So
I love it.
So she's been super supportive. My dad and my husband, who has now been on this journey with me for a really long time. He's also pretty competitive. So he likes to, he was like, especially that first campaign, like getting behind winning and working super hard. We did a lot. I worked really hard on that campaign. It was I didn't have kids yet at that time too, so I was able to just I just knocked on all the doors twice and we just like connected with people.
I mean, but I'm gonna say this from when I first met you at the Brand campaign. It's like I met you like almost like back to back. You definitely wouldn't remember. It was Brian's campaign, and then it was an initiative that Brandon Jessup was working on. It was you, Jocelyn, and
that was
up there. Man, it was somebody else. It's gonna bother me.
Well, was that the thing with Harry Belafonte?
Was that the thing with Harry Belafonte?
Yeah, I can't remember what year that was.
But it may have been like '08, '09, something like that, I think, possibly. But yeah, that was another time. But yeah, you were always in all the rooms where it was like the option to like, hey, we could go over here, eat some pizza and talk about, things that ain't necessarily political. You was always the one like, no, let's get back to it, stomping and stuff. So I was like, yeah, that's
okay.
Focused in it.
I am like now trying to remember what event that might have been.
Because it was more like I think it was like gathering some mail. It was like all around the board political stuff. It was like mailing stuff, calling.
In 2000.
It may have been like 8 or 9. I forget what it was. I'll have to call BJ and to get exactly what it was, but it was something. I just happened to be with BJ because I was, that's my homie. So I was like, I'm actually like more a disruption in this room than because I may pack like, look, I'm not about to pack no 100 envelopes. Give me like 15 of them and I'm chilling. And then I need to go back to sleep or something. But it was just a different clip of always like the focus on whatever the task was at work. So I was like, yeah, I could see you actually, pounding the pavement. And it, I often tell people this, like, still pounding the pavement, it works. I think it's tougher now, especially with a lot of renters and not as many people probably present at home. Denzel just ran one hell of a campaign doing it.
So proud of him.
But it's still so many people that say like, yeah, I've never met a politician. And if you're in it, you're like, how could you never have met any elected official or any person running? But it's like, it happens.
It does. And I like all the time meet people who have like no idea who their state rep or state senator is. And you know what? It's fine, right? Like in some ways it's on us, right? Like maybe we need to do a better job. Like I think I'm like pretty present. But I sometimes feel like, okay, maybe we could do a better job. But the other thing is like people are just living their lives.
Yeah.
There's a lot that people are struggling through and just trying to like get through their day, right? And so in some ways, if they don't know who their state representative senator is, like it's okay. But we should do a better job of making sure that we like get our information out there so that they know who we are in case they ever need help. But there was a point that I had that was related to what you just said. I think it was like
Out on the pavement, getting in contact, getting in people's faces is still a way to work a campaign.
Absolutely. And I think that is like if we could just get back to basics, like the digital ads and all that stuff is a necessary part of campaigns now. But like that didn't exist when I first ran in 2014. At least I don't think it did. Maybe it did. I don't know. I didn't do any.
It wasn't. It was not as prevalent, and then also, and this is actually, I guess, this will be like my first like political question that I kind of think I'm asking you. As the Detroiter has become more transient in this time, which is definitely we could say like it's a reflection of many realities, not just political, some social, some economic, but many things. But we're looking at many renters. It's not like it used to be. This is the house my grandma owned, so it was iterations where like people own these homes and you just in your district and you just knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my person. This is my seat. And this is where things are. If you're probably moving maybe every other year, you don't know what district you're in.
For sure. There's a lot of people moving around. They're also, especially the district that I have had the honor of representing, there's been a lot of change. And
transient, I mean, even the lines of which they're drawn through the census counts, and Lord knows what's happened to the maps now are just very
changes to lines, but also just changes in like who's living here, right?
Yeah.
And so like I think about the first so I first ran in 2014. There's a whole bunch of apartments and condos that exist now that did not exist then, right? And so in like Lafayette Park area and like further east, and then also even think about like Island View, West Village, even North End. Like there's a lot of like there's just a lot of buildings that are there now that did not exist, and there's also, of course, a lot that has been demolished. So, I also remember like my first campaign. This was crazy. For some reason, I was like, we're going to write down the addresses of every single blighted, like, abandoned house.
You did that in 2014?
We did. It was a
I
lot.
was going to say, that's going to be a long list.
And then we would, like, send them to the district managers and be like, are you going to...
Yeah.
What can you do? And because at the time, like blight was really one of the biggest things that people were talking about when we were going door to door. And so, among other things, but that was one of them.
Yeah.
And so I was like literally writing down all of these things. 2 years later, 5 years later, and then now 11 years later, I mean, some of these neighborhoods just look very different.
Yeah.
So the lines have changed, but also like who is here. In some neighborhoods, not every, but like in some neighborhoods, there have been a lot of change.
Yeah. And I just think, like more renters, we're looking at like, depending upon the day or who you ask. But I think it's about 50-50 now. Whereas it was so many homeowners just, not that long ago. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're looking at least like 75, 80% home ownership. I don't know, 2010, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that group, and this is, I've said this before, so this is a Kari Frazier feeling. This ain't even a Detroit, it's different feeling that the idea of home ownership is going to become more and more of a luxury as time goes on. Just as, my theory into this is just as seeing more corporate actors getting to residential real estate.
I think that housing is one of the biggest crises that we have right now.
Very much so.
And on like all fronts.
Yes.
It's like, okay, for renters, the fact that rent is like growing astronomically every year. right? And then for homeowners, like especially in Detroit, some of these older homes, they're so beautiful and also falling apart.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that Mayor-elect Sheffield, she has been like a huge champion for home repair. So I'm hoping that like under this next administration, there will be even more. And like, the generational homes, right? Like where we are right now and thinking about that, like, yes, roofs cost a lot of money. New porches, new cost a lot of money. But then like everywhere in between, right? And I just remember how we had like that giant tax foreclosure crisis that happened in Detroit and Wayne County, and elsewhere as well. And let's make sure that we don't relive that. But I'm really worried actually because everything is becoming so much more expensive, and rent is becoming more expensive. All the basic like our utility bills, our water bills, all that stuff is getting really expensive. And so, as people are going to have to pick and choose, like, okay, what bills can I afford to pay this month? What's going to get left behind, and then how do we make sure people are able to stay in their homes?
Now, I love that you gave that because you set in a lot of these fights, not just in legislation, but just definitely in grassroots, especially a lot of the work around water activism. I've seen you in like documentaries about it and everything. So, what is it what have you found some of the most effective ways of being able to serve a lot of the people looking for this change? Like, what should the people, when they need to come to you and it's like, yo, we need some help with this, and they're not necessarily even understanding the steps of getting this pain to something that could end up in legislation and how to look at resolving something like that?
So water is a great example. When I first ran in 2014, that was the year that thousands of people were getting their water shut off. And the United Nations even came in and said, this is a human rights violation. And so then I took office the year after. And so I was like, I'm not a water expert. I just care about people and I want to help. We actually convened a hearing at the state capitol around water affordability and also water quality. This was before the Flint water crisis had been uncovered. And so, but there were residents from Flint who came with their bottles of water, the dirty water. And so they came and talked about like something is going on with our water. And then Detroiters and others came, and Highland Parkers came and said, like, we need water bills that we can afford. And so, like, we have come such a long way since then. And so, but I think one of the things that was really powerful is that people shared their stories of getting their water shut off. And so, Nicole Hill, for example, I like tell her story a lot because it was really impactful for me. Like she had and she is public about it. So I know it's okay to share, that she had her water shut off. She had, a couple of kids at the time. And like not being able to have water in your home when you're trying to take care of your babies is like really, it's,
it becomes
hard.
a public health issue that could become a life or death issue.
And she ended up in the ER. She got a viral infection, all because she just like did not have the running water in her home, right? And so that was heartbreaking. And the fact that this was happening to her, but also thousands of other people, made me really feel like, okay, I need to get involved in this. And so then we started working on legislation. We introduced it. We actually found some bipartisan support for it. Here we are 11 years later. We actually have legislation that came very, very close to passing last year, but unfortunately did not get done. But we're actually at a place now where we have brought both the water advocates and the water providers together, and the community action agencies like Wayne Metro and the United Way and all these different groups are all like, we're all together now saying like, yes, we need to get this done. And I think it's actually a really powerful example of how, like, two things. One, personal stories can impact policy, the prioritization of policy, the creation of the policy itself, and also the power of bringing people together. Because if you think about, like, 2014, like, People's Water Board DWSD were at each other's throats. They were like, not, and they will talk about this, right? Like they completely disagreed with one another. But now they're literally like working hand in hand to get legislation passed because we need to. And folks have realized, like, actually, not only is getting a water affordability solution good for people who are struggling to pay their bills, it's also good for the whole system and our water providers because we need that stability. Yes, it costs lots of money to replace lead lines and do all these infrastructure upgrades. And the more we can get bills that people can actually afford, the more money you bring into the system, and then people have water. So, like, let's make it happen. So, but it has been really, really a big honor to be able to work alongside so many water activists in Detroit. The water warriors, some of them, unfortunately, we have lost.
Yeah.
Mama Lila Cabbil.
I was going to say that's who I immediately think of. And definitely, and
Joanne Watson.
Oh, God, Mom, definitely. I mean, she was on every fight for the people, actually, but loved it. But definitely there. And I mean, we look at mentees of hers, of Deborah Taylor and Monica Lewis Patrick, always moving forward so much of the advocacy. And I think that it's also empowering of them and you and others, I mean, now Mayor-elect Sheffield, but have supported them in their actions. Like when organizers have a platform to present to the people with the same platform that that we would expect, like corporate executives usually, can stand spaces and place to speak to the people. So I think it helps anchor things out. And I definitely know, I'm going to get Monica in soon again, and it's more to happen. Yeah. But some things have shifted, and it's an awareness with a lot of Detroiters in reference to what's happened around water, because it is such an asset, especially, I mean, shout out to Tawana. I mean, we're looking at the data centers now, and I think that that's a whole nother wave, but I think we're more aware because of what we've been through and seen of what could be at stake. So at least that's the Kari Frazier thinking. You know what I'm saying?
There's also something about just like being a Detroiter. We've got like this connection to the river, right? And then we're in the Great Lakes state where we're literally surrounded by fresh water.
Yeah.
I feel like Detroiters and Michiganders, we have like a relationship with water that I'm not sure about. I just don't know, right? If like people in other cities and states have that same relationship. I mean, I guess in some way all human beings are connected with water, but we're like the Detroit River is like I feel like so many Detroiters just have like, such a strong connection with it. And then we know that water is life, and we have all this like beautiful, amazing natural resource around us that unfortunately people can't afford. So we've got to. I'm grateful for a lot of the things that have happened, right? We've got the Lifeline program, we've got RAP, but we do need to pass these bills to be able to make it sustainable for everyone. And we're going to get there.
I got it. So with that, as we get closer to a close, before the last questions, I guess, come the larger question that you probably get all of the time. So from office in Senate and seeing where things go moving forward, where do you see yourself engaging and carrying on with this work? Do you see yourself moving back in like more of the grassroots organizing soon? Do you see yourself staying more in the political arena? What do you think would be the fulfilling best path for you, the people, and what you want to do in your journey?
Thanks for the question. So still figuring this out. I've got about a year left in office. And so I'm just going to try to get as much done as I can in this next year, write on things that I've been working on for so long that I've invested a lot of time in, and, that a lot of folks have been amazing partners on. But I think as far as what happens after 2026, there are certain categories of things I have ruled out. So I'm not going to run for office in the near future. And I also don't want to be a multi-client lobbyist, right? So those are two things I've crossed off the list.
Okay.
The things on the list of categories of things I am interested in are, I feel like my home will always be in organizing, in nonprofit world, in some shape or form. So that is available as an option, and I would love to play some type of leadership role in just moving issues forward and helping solve community problems. The other area that I've been sort of thinking about a little bit more has been philanthropy, because I think that sometimes I watch what happens in philanthropy, and I know that the way that you can shape conversations, the way that you can support organizations doing good work or convene people are actually kind of similar in a way to some of the things I do as a public servant. So there's some transferable skills there. So those are two categories of things, but if any listeners have any ideas, feel free to let me know. Trying to figure that out, but also I'm not in a huge rush, so I just want to be able to do something where I'm still making an impact for people.
I'm with it. And you also got two little homies that you're about to get back to shortly too. So I'm sure you're going to be pushing them in some form of organizing themselves. They're going to be walking too. So it's
well, they're with me at so many events, and I think about the fact that they have had a lot of experiences that probably most kids don't have. And so they have been with me at rallies, protests, panels, conferences, tree lightings, community events.
Okay.
They're great little helpers. But yes, I am looking forward to, after I'm done in office, being able to hopefully spend I spend a good amount of time with them, but I'm looking forward to having hopefully a little bit more normal of a job. And I love being a mom. So
okay. Love that. So classic Detroit is different questions. But before we get there, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Absolutely. So email is great. So it's just, oh my gosh, what is my email? It's senschang@senate.michigan.gov. That is the way to reach our office, senschang@senate.michigan.gov. Also, we have a website. It's just senatorstephaniechang.com. Phone is also fine. Our Detroit, we have a district office in Hamtramck /Detroit, which is 313-922-6949. I'm on not all, but I'm on Facebook at Stephanie Chang MI, and then Instagram Stephanie Lily Chang, and then I am also trying to do more on Blue Sky.
Okay,
right? Let's make Blue Sky happen more.
I got you. I actually I'm gonna do that, and I was Amanda and them from my camp was like, you need to get in Blue Sky. I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'm gonna over this break in December.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get down with Blue Sky.
There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah. And I mean, Isaac Hayes Jr. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah,
and it's really, it's I have deleted X/Twitter off my phone. I did that about a year ago.
Okay.
And I'm really glad that I did. And so Blue Sky has taken its place.
Okay.
Screen.
I got you. I'm headed in that direction. And especially I've been challenged by those that have taught me.
Excellent.
So classic Detroit is different questions. Goes to everybody. Your very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
Okay, very first car. What year was that? It was a blue Ford Focus. I had a series of Ford Focuses. I would
Okay.
I think I had over the course of time 3 blue Ford Focuses. But what year was it? It was actually after. It must have been 2005 actually.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a car when I was at Michigan.
Okay. All right. Where's the first place you went when you got it?
Oh, I have no idea.
Hilarious.
Sorry, I have no idea. Probably home from the car dealership. I have no idea. Sorry. You mean a trip?
No, just where was the first place? So probably back to the house.
Probably back home.
Okay. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks at Woodward and Jefferson. You get to play 2 songs.
2 songs.
What songs you playing?
K-pop Demon Hunters.
Okay.
I mean, How It's Done, and probably Golden.
Okay.
Have you watched K-pop Demon Hunters yet?
I am not as familiar. I just found out about it. They were talking about it with I guess it's this toy that that's like a surprise if you buy it or something. It's like connected to that somehow. And I was like, okay, I am missing the whole wave of like how large this is.
It is the #1 most watched Netflix movie ever. And, like, multiple songs
Okay.
were, like, on the Billboard 100, like, top 10 for, like,
Wow.
weeks.
So this is like High School Musical times 5.
But the thing about it is it's, like, actually really, really good.
Okay. Okay.
So, yes, I am a mom of 2 kids,
Mhm.
but also, like,
Hilarious.
everyone should just go watch it. It's amazing.
Okay. So it's like, it's a children's movie that you will appreciate as an adult.
No matter the generation.
Okay.
If you appreciate good music and a good story,
Connect with it.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. And the last question, if you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter, who would it be and why?
Grace Lee Boggs.
Okay. I figured that's where you was going to go, but now I get the why from you.
Well, so the funny thing is Grace probably wouldn't have wanted a street named
Not at all.
after her.
Not at all.
But, so I guess we should probably, well, who knows? Maybe I wonder if anyone ever asked her that. But, like, she's got a school named after her. She's got the Boggs Center is named after her. But I think, like, to have, like, a major street named after her, then people would be like, oh, the Grace Lee Boggs Avenue. I got to go learn about her, right? And so, I think about, like, the street renamings that have been happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really important, right? It's a symbolic thing, but it's also, like, an opportunity for people to learn something new and people to learn about Grace Lee Boggs.
Yeah, I think if Field Street were renamed after Jimmy and Grace, it would give some thought process to some of the people over in that footprint,
For sure.
because I think both of them, as I've learned just from doing work with the Boggs Center, more and more about both of their stories. It's interesting. It's almost like you could take any 5-year period of their lives, and it's like, huh, what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, just like,
Yes.
so it was like, yeah, so we was like, just bring Malcolm X here. And it's like, what are you talking about?
And actually, there's probably, we should ask people who, like, knew them for many decades, right? Because there's probably certain things that, like, you could connect to certain streets besides Field Street or besides
yeah.
where they had,
Very, very much so. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like the waves of things, like even in like finding out, like I say, working with the Boggs Center has opened up like different thought processes of just how internationally
Yes,
they were connected.
for sure. There's probably streets named after her somewhere else, maybe. I don't know. I gotta look.
I know. It's like in
yeah, we should
Louisville,
deserve that
Kentucky or something.
But we deserve that in Detroit. So
I'm with it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Peace.
Detroit, Detroit, Detroit is different. Detroit is different. Detroit is different.